Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing great. I'm Kirti Sophia Purnachan, and in today's session we'll be learning the poem Refugee Blues by W.H. Auden. W.H. Auden was born in 1907 in York. He was the son of George Augustus Auden, who was a doctor, and Constance Rosalie Auden, who was a missionary nurse. He was raised in the West Midlands of northern England, whose industrial cities remained an important poetic landscape throughout his career. During the course of his graduation in English at Oxford, he was influenced by the poetry of T. S. Eliot. T. S. Eliot is one of the icons of modernist poetry at that time. In 1930, Auden's first collection of poetry entitled Poems was published, and it inaugurated the movement of English verse known as the Auden generation. The members of this Auden generation are Stephen Splendor, Louis MacNeice, and C. Day Lewis. And these poets, through their poetry, they expressed a desire for political and ethical commitment. That was one of the features of their poetry. In 1937, he married Erika Mann, a daughter of the famous German novelist Thomas Mann. He was influenced by Marxist ideals, and he was involved in the Spanish Civil War in 1937. Auden was prolific in writing and won the Pulitzer Prize for his work The Age of Anxiety, written in 1947. He also won National Book Award for The Shield of Achilles, written in 1955. In 1956, Auden came back to England when he was elected Professor of Poetry at Oxford. In 1973, he died of a heart attack in a hotel in Vienna. He is buried in Poets' Corner of Westminster Abbey. The greatness of Auden as a poet emerges from his contribution to literature in the 1930s, as he, along with his companions, is known as a poet of the 30s. Besides Refugee Blues, the other important poems written by Auden are Spain, in memory of W.B. Yeats, September 1, 1939, Muse des Beaux Arts, The Unknown Citizen, New Year Letter, and The Shield of Achilles. Auden was undeniably modern in tone. However, a concern for the rights of the various marginalized individuals and communities remained a principal theme always in his works. So that's a brief introduction about the poet. So now we move on to the poem. Refugee Blues was written in March 1939 when anti-Semitism was at its height in Germany. It laments the sad plight of the Jews who were threatened to leave the country before the Holocaust. Holocaust means a mass destruction that happened during the time of Hitler. Hitler had given commands to kill Jews, and a lot of Jews were killed during that time. When the Jews sought asylum in other countries, there was indifference and antagonism. Antagonism means opposition against them. This poem is a documentation of the denial of the human rights of the migrant population of the world. In this poem, Although it specifically refers to the plight of the Jews in Nazi Germany under Hitler, we can see a global picture of refugees seeking asylum in other countries. So let's dive into the stanza. Say this city has 10 million souls. Some are living in mansions, some are living in holes. Yet there's no place for us, my dear. Yet there's no place for us. Once we had a country and we thought it fair. Look in the atlas and you'll find it there. We cannot go there now, my dear. We cannot go there now. In the village churchyard, there grows an old yew. Every spring it blossoms anew. Old passports can't do that, my dear. Old passports can't do that. The poem begins by telling that there are 10 million people in this city. So when we read through the poem, we can see that there is a speaker and the speaker is speaking to his beloved. And in these lines, we could see that the speaker is telling to his beloved that in this city, there are 10 million people. And some of those people are living in mansions, that they are living a luxurious life, they are living in big houses, but some people are living in holes, that is, some people are so poor they are living in slum areas. And the speaker is telling his beloved, yet there's no place for us, my dear, yet there's no place for us. So in the city, there are 10 million people. There are people living in big houses. There are people living in slum-like areas. But in this city, we don't have a place to live. We are alone in the city. We don't have a shelter. Moving on to the next stanza. Once we had a country and we thought it fair. So in this stanza, the speaker is telling his beloved that once upon a time we had a country and we all thought that it was a very good place. Look in the atlas and you will find it there. So, beloved, take the atlas. Just look at it. You can see our country over there. You will find it over there in the atlas. But in the next line, the speaker is telling, we cannot go there now, my dear. We cannot go there now. So in this line, the speaker is telling his beloved that it's quite impossible to go to that country that we belong to. We can't go there right now. In the third stanza, in the village churchyard, there grows an old yew. Yew is a type of tree. So in the village churchyard, there is an old yew. Every spring it blossoms anew. So this yew tree, during every spring season, every year, it blossoms like fresh. Old passports can't do that, my dear. Old passports can't do that. So just like the old yew tree, every year the old passports that we have won't be renewed. It remains the same and we are unable to renew our passport anymore. Moving on to stanza 4. The consul banged the table and said, if you've got no passport, you're officially dead. But we are still alive, my dear. But we are still alive. Consul is an officer, and this officer is banging the table and telling them that if you don't have a passport, that your passport is not renewed, you don't have a correct passport, that means you're officially dead, you're not alive. And here the speaker is telling to his beloved that even though the consul told that we are dead, we are still alive, my dear. We are still alive. We are not dead. We are alive. We don't have a passport and the country is not agreeing to it. Next stanza. Went to a committee, they offered me a chair, asked me politely to return next year. But where shall we go today, my dear? But where shall we go today? So later he went to a committee and he told whatever problems he had. But they were kind enough to offer him a chair and to listen to him. But what they responded to him was that you could come next year and we'll think about it, or we'll try to solve it next year. And the speaker is telling, but where shall we go today? Because they have asked us to return next year and today's problem is not solved. So next year, the speaker is not sure whether he'll be there or not. So he's telling, where shall we go today? We don't have a place to go. We are all alone. We don't have a country and nobody is taking care of us. Stanza 6. Came to a public meeting. The speaker got up and said, if we let them in, they will steal our daily bread. He was talking of you and me, my dear. He was talking of you and me. Later on, the speaker of the poem goes to a public meeting. Over there was another speaker, that is, the person who was speaking to the public. He was over there and he was speaking certain things. What he spoke was that if we let them in, they will steal our bread, our daily bread. So here, the speaker of the public meeting is referring to the refugees. He's telling that if we let the refugees into our country, they'll steal our bread. The people of this country won't get a proper job and all those things will be stolen by these refugees. So in effect, the speaker of the public meeting is trying to convince the people that they should not allow refugees enter their country and they should actually send these refugees back to their own places. So when the speaker of the poem was listening to it, he was telling his beloved that whatever the speaker of the public meeting was telling, it was all about you and me, about the speaker of the poem and his beloved. The speaker in the public meeting was speaking about them. He was talking of you and me, my dear. He was talking of you and me. So that's all for today. I hope today's session was fruitful for you. We'll continue our class in the next session. Have a nice day. Thank you so much.